All right, thank goodness the Padres held up their end of the bargain on what was a very promising doubleheader potential for just a great day in San Diego sports, and it was still a pretty good day in San Diego sports. Unfortunately, a disappointing finish. Derek Togerson, Darnay trip, but an opening day, Petco Park opener victory for the Padres. Gotta like that, Derek.
It's a great thing. It is true. It is, and the way they did it, which we'll get into in this podcast, is it's actually. I know it's one of 162, and it's game 3 overall, but man, it's encouraging because we didn't see this at all last year.
No, we did not, and we will discuss in greater length because yes, there are some promising signs that hopefully, if they continue, gives helps you feel good about where this team could be headed. Thanks to OG's, a sponsor of the On Friar podcast. All they do for the On Friar team, the NBC San Diego sports team, having us out at OG's Mission Valley last week. That was a lot of fun. If you didn't catch that episode with Greg Garcia, Bernie Wilson, we had a really, really good time. So be sure to check that out and hit up OG's NCAA tournament, baseball, Padres, Masters coming up, whatever you want to watch. Great place to do it at the OG's in your neighborhood. So thanks again to OG's, the sponsor of the On Friar podcast. Without further ado, the welcome music. Talking real baseball again, folks. I guess we did it last week after the Seoul games, but something about the Seoul games, while they were real baseball games, they went on at 3 a.m. in a foreign part of the world. And, it's something about them arriving at Petco Park, playing a team like the Giants. I mean, it was the Dodgers, but whatever. It just feels real now, Derek, especially with all the lag time and exhibitions in between. Season really arrived in good, encouraging fashion today, which is nice.
Well, when you can be there, it means something different. When you don't have to completely alter your life and sleep schedule to watch it, it means something different. And to finally get it back at Petco Park for the first time since last September, it was really, really nice. Just the vibe overall was. The new Gallagher Square looks fantastic. And I was just before the game, I was standing up on the Toyota Terrace, just kind of overlooking all of Gallagher Square and just looking, and man, there was a sea of gold and brown. Like it was a sight to behold, man. And then for the Friar faithful to get that kind of a show was like, it really couldn't have worked out much better.
No, it couldn't have. And it was the type of game that like, it could have not worked out well, know, and
last year it would not have worked out well.
Last year probably would not have worked out well. This year it did work out well. Big 7th inning that turned the tide in the Padres' favor for good, and that was kind of that. And but it was a slow burn. I kept waiting for like that big moment, like we've seen in the past. Like remember when was it the Braves? CJ Abrams homered, and I think Manny homered that night as well. Like we've had some big moments. Last year that was not the case, the 7-2 loss. But I was like, what is the signature moment of this game going to be? And I think this is actually something you're going to talk about. There wasn't really one signature moment because it was like a lot of small moments that added up to the Padres kind of asserting their will in this game in those late innings.
It was as Tony Dungy said, as we've talked about before, it was death by paper cuts. Or as Mike Schultz said today, sometimes you do it by the bomb, and that's great. And sometimes you got to just like slice and dice. And that's what they did. Logan Webb is really good. In fact, the words that came out of Jurickson Profar's mouth were Cy Young. Like he's got that kind of stuff. He's not going to give you a whole lot of chances, especially keeps the ball down so well, a whole lot of chances to lift the ball and hit it out of the ballpark. So what do? They have 9 hits, 8 of them singles. It was the first 8 that were singles. It wasn't until Jake Cronenworth squared one up for a double in the 7th inning for the 9th and final hit. That was a double. It was the first extra base hit they had. But here's the key, Darnay. They came at the right times. The situational hitting in this game, and also in the last Dodger game, they scored 15 runs. It was glorious. They've scored 20 runs in the last 2 games with hitting 1 homer. That was
Yeah.
Manny Machado putting it to bed in the 9th inning with the 3-run bomb in Korea against the Dodgers. 21 runs with 1 home run. That's not modern Major League Baseball. But they're facing a really good Giant starter and a really good Dodgers pitching staff. And that's what you have to do sometimes. You have to just string stuff together. And we've seen them do it 2 games in a row, a week apart across 2 different continents and God knows how many time zones. So it's really nice to see that that one wasn't an anomaly. This one probably isn't an anomaly. This is just what this team's going to do. They're going to keep on coming after you and make you earn these outs. We'll talk about Jackson Merrill's 7th inning at bat. That was fantastic. It was a walk. We'll talk about going first to third a couple of different times. Just aggressive base running, the double steal that turned out to be with Tyler Wade and Luis Campusano to tie the game. It was wonderful to see them doing all this little old school National League small ball stuff that won them a baseball game. Like it made the inner purist in me smile broadly.
I know. I can tell you're all in all worked up about it, and where this is hours later, I could tell that this this scratched a certain itch for you. Just them playing the type of baseball that we haven't necessarily seen a whole lot of. I should say we are broadcasting live on the NBC San Diego YouTube page. If you are watching live on YouTube, get in the chat. Let us know what you think. We might actually have a couple comments in there. We will get to them on the pod, and always appreciate you listening, watching, wherever you take in the On Friar podcast. We sure appreciate it. There were points even when this team was a little bit better in previous years. I shouldn't say a little bit better because we don't really know, but when they were playing well, where they could be a little reliant on the home run, and there weren't enough innings like this where they just kind of scrap it together. You're waiting for Fernando Tatis, in 2021 to have a big swing, or Manny Machado, or one of these guys. And so to have innings like this and games like this where, yeah, you're right, it is single, it's a steal attempt that leads to an error that gets you another bag, and that sort of thing. That 7th inning, I think they had runners on the corners with no outs on like 3 separate occasions. And after they get through the 5th, where Profar drives in a run, then they get bases loaded with no outs, and then the Tyler Wade, I might have the order of operations differently, but
that's absolutely right. Yeah, Tyler Wade came up and hit the little dribbler up the first base line, and we talked about this in the press box, Darnay. The new base running rules up first base, the runner gets the entire dirt.
Yeah,
like the entirety of the dirt on both sides of the foul line. And Mike Schilt afterwards said he was in the dirt, but what the umpire ruled was he went outside the dirt, therefore he was outside the baseline trying to avoid a tag. So that people who watch the game know what we're talking about here. But Tyler Wade hit a little dribbler up first base, a run scored. They could have had an even bigger inning. He was out at first base when it was ruled that as he was contorting his body going up the first baseline to avoid the tag, that he was ruled out of the baseline. Although I didn't really see a replay that confirmed that.
Yeah, and that's, with those rules and kind of the catcher interference rule now spreading across, the diamond a little bit more, it's gonna get dicey. So not looking forward to that. But 5th inning, they probably should have scored more than 2 runs in the 5th inning, and so that felt like, oh no, is it going to be this type of game? 6th inning, they get a couple on, they strand them. You're like, all right, we've seen this before, and it was funny. Xander Bogaerts even kind of mentioned it. He's like, you don't want to say, is this happening again? But like even that, like it lets you know it's in their head. They're thinking about it just like we are in these situations. And I think he felt like, yeah, we should be really encouraged by that, because that was something that they weren't doing last year that they did do today. And it ultimately won them the game. And that was the difference between this year's team and last year's team. I should say something. I was kind of curious about this. We always say it's early, you can't really draw any conclusions. Season opener last year against the Rockies, 7-2 loss, 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position, stranded 7 runners. So the theme of the season, probably the biggest downfall and reason for their shortcomings was present from the very beginning. And if this is the flip side of that, if this is what we can expect, then this is really this very promising. This seems to suggest that this team will turn things around.
What have we said many times, Darnay? There are no bad hops when you're walking back to the first base dugout because you struck out. And that's something that Xander talked about too. Is I asked him, home runs are great, but can single, walk, single. Can that like annoy a pitcher even more? And he's like, I'd imagine so, because it's like if you hang a pitch and it gets hit for a home run, okay, you expect it, you made a mistake, you hang one. But you make a good pitch and someone does a little bloop and it turns into a base hit. And this is his words, like you got him kind of turn around like going, God, that's guy looks like it pisses him off more. And you kind of see it like I did everything I could and the guy still gets a base hit. Well, that's what Luis Campusano did with the flipping a little ball into right field. That's what Bogaerts himself did on the go-ahead RBI single. That was breaking ball going away. And he just reached out and, lofted it in the shallow left center field for a single. Just keep the line moving, Jackson Merrill's at bat in the 7th to bring up Bogaerts was phenomenal. He's 20 years old. He goes 0-2. He's getting sliders in the dirt that he's laying off of. In fact, Xander's like, I don't think I'd have been able to do that at the age of 20. Like it was an amazing at bat to draw that walk and just keep that out from being on the board. Put another base runner on base. Turn the lineup over for Bogaerts to really get things going. The way these guys are doing this it's so refreshing, and it goes to show, like when Mike Shildt took this over, he's like, this is what his teams did in St. Louis all the time. They just beat you because they would just pester you to death. They had really good pitching. They played really good defense, and they pestered you. They didn't have Paul Goldschmidt at the time. They didn't have Nolan Arenado at the time. They didn't have a whole bunch of boppers up and down the lineup. They would just pester you to death. It was a bunch of Matt Carpenter in his prime type of years, the great Garcias of the world, who would just go there and line little singles and doubles all over the place and just get on your nerves. And by the end of the game, you got 6 runs on the board. You're like, how the hell did that work? They only had 8 singles, and yet they're getting him all at the right times. This is a Mike Shildt kind of team. This is what he wants to do. He has instilled this approach at the plates. He and his offensive staff overnight. And it's really, really great to see. And the stuff on the bases, he even said, watching Fernando Tatis Jr. go first to third on a ground ball to the pitcher, because he took off on the pitch. This is the whole situation. This is the 6th inning you were talking about. Webb disengages. He throws over twice to first base. Now Toddy's got him dead to rights. He knows it. So he takes off because Webb can't throw over. So first move, he's going. Cronenworth hits a little grounder just to the left of the pitcher. Webb goes over and picks it up. Toddy barely breaks stride because he knows that ball is going to first. He goes first to third on a ball that didn't get past the pitcher. And then Campusano going first to third on a ball that Tyler Wade hits to right field. Didn't even have to hold up. And then Jackson Merrill, again, there's a ball the one that Bogaerts hit into left center field. He took off from first base. I was in the press box looking at it like, I'm not sure if that's going to get caught or not, just for a second. Merrill knew right from the start that ball's falling. The jumps and the reads these guys are getting simply on things that you don't even think about. Get you a runner at third base with 1 out now, instead of, sitting at second base where you still have a different kind of double play in order. It gives you so many more options to do things. Just what Shildt said about the first to third thing is, quote, it was sexy. He said that was sexy watching those guys go first to third. I'm like, well, yeah, it's Toddy. Of course it's sexy. But yes, it's great to see them doing these things because they didn't do it at all last year. It was station to station, wait for a bomb. This is really, really fun. It's fun baseball to watch, Darnay. Should we talk about the pitching staff? Yeah, but we're 13 minutes in, haven't even touched the fact that the pitching staff was pretty damn good outside of Johnny Brito.
Yeah, and just to kind of follow up on that point, it's also like forcing them to make a play, and I think, Melvin, they seem to play it. So especially when they have, they've got the guys, even going back to having Trent Grisham, guys that can, wreak some havoc on the base path. Why not cut them loose a little bit and force teams to make a throw? And that was Wade in the 7th, he goes to second, they can't make the throw, gets to third, and he ends up scoring. And so, putting yourself in position to do that and just kind of cranking up the heat. We talked about that with the Diamondbacks. Like, they were so pesky to play last year because they were constantly putting pressure on you, forcing you to make those throws, keeping your attention, probably getting the head of the pitcher a little bit. He's having to be a little bit more mindful compared to the Padres, where they're just constantly losing the running game because Nola couldn't throw anybody out. And so it was just like
the pitchers don't do a good job. Darvish does a terrible job of holding guys on. He didn't care about that. He'd rather strike him out anyway. But you saw Corbin Carroll do this to the Padres all last year and win a Rookie of the Year along the way.
Yeah, just giving up free bags. And so if they're able to flip that a little bit, that should help. And it's just like you said, it kind of makes for a fun personality style of play. Like we love the aggressiveness. They've got those types of guys. Like that's how they should play. It seems to kind of fit their mold and fit their personality a little bit more. Before we turn to pitching, I was just looking at the box score again, and it's not the extent of a 15-run game, but like Bogaerts, 2 hits, scores, drives in a run. Tatis has a hit. Cronenworth has a hit, his 2-run double that really opened this thing up. Machado, no hits, but, got on base, scored a run. Kim, a hit and a run. Profar gets on board, obviously drove in the first run of the game. Campusano, 2 hits. I mean, Luis Campusano, like, a fairly, I mean, I shouldn't say quiet because he was involved in all this activity, scored a run. But like this kid, man, like more and more he's getting his opportunities and looking like a guy. Tyler Wade doing good things, scoring, hit, driving in a run. And like you said, Jackson Merrill, good at bats, a walk turns into a run. It's just contributions, guys making like meaningful baseball plays up and down the order, which was not the case last year.
No, it was not. It's been really, really, really nice to see. Jake, much maligned last year.
Yes.
And what did we talk about? The whole last year was he's trying to live up to the contract and B, the position he's playing, right? He's trying to launch the ball out of the ballpark because that's the land of first base is Pete Alonso and Freddie Freeman and Paul Goldschmidt. Like that, they're your boppers, right? Jake Cronenworth's not that. He's at his best when he is simply putting the barrel on the ball and letting good things happen. And what has he been doing so far this season, Darnay? Putting the barrel on the ball and letting good things happen. I mean, he's got 6 runs batted in already this year. He's hitting 417. He's got 1 extra base hit.
Yeah.
Sorry, two extra base hits. They're both doubles. But what he's doing, he's leading the league in runs batted in. It's like, it's a beautiful thing. Just when he just puts the barrel on the ball, you don't have to hit bombs because you got guys all around you. There's a dude in front of you and Tatis is going to hit his share, and a dude behind you and Machado is going to hit his share. Be on base for him and keep the line moving. It's really, really nice to see him getting back into his comfort zone and being the player that we all saw him being as an all-star for 2 years.
Yeah, no doubt. And like, there's plenty of extra base there, even if it's not homers. I mean, doubles play.
I'll take a double.
Yeah. You Darvish, what'd you see out of him? Gave him 5, 1 run, scattered 5 hits. They pieced a couple together to get that run across. When was it in the third? 7 strikeouts, a lot of hard hit balls off him, but like limited the damage within that. So kind of an interesting outing for him, but like an effective outing. And obviously with you, like you expect as the season goes on, he'll give you the quality starts and that sort of thing. But one thing I seem to enjoy about him is like kind of no matter what happens, he ends up giving you like a Yu Darvish type of start. That wasn't always the case last year, but like 2022, like he could throw 35 pitches in the first inning, give a couple runs, and then you blink and it's 6 and 2 earned. He's just really resilient and obviously has the stuff to mow him down. So an interesting, start for him. And I think, I'm sure not perfect in his eyes, but pretty good way to kind of, I guess it's his second start of the season, but to kind of continue to ramp this thing up.
Well, that was his problem in the first start was he was really good until the third inning. And the third inning, he threw 36, 37, something like that pitches. And just he couldn't just shake himself off the hook, And again, that's against the Dodgers lineup. That's nuts. In this game, he mowed through the first 2 innings, gave up a double to Conforto, got out, gave up a double to Ahmed by the way, that was not a bad pitch. Nick Ahmed is a notorious bad ball hitter. That ball was 4 inches above the strike zone. He somehow just, pulled it down the left field line right inside the bag. That's just something that Ahmed does. He limited a lot of the damage, a few hard hit balls on him. It looks to me like you is still trying to figure out his pitch mix. Because he throws a lot. He throws a lot of different pitches. I remember I was sitting in the press box looking and going, well, he hasn't done a fastball yet this inning. It was probably like the 4th or 5th inning. I thought, dude, don't go away from your 4-seam. Don't go away from your fastball. And the next pitch was a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to strike out. I forget who he struck out, but he struck somebody out with it. I'm like, see, get back to your bread and butter. So I think he's maybe tinkering a little bit with, he's throwing his curveball a lot more. And this might be
Mhm.
stuff from, working in the pitching lab. He has he feels really comfortable with that pitch right now. Not throwing the slider maybe as effectively. The cutter may not be being used much. I haven't seen him throw many changeups. So I think he's trying to find the feel for everything right now and trying to figure out what he is going to throw with more consistency.
Mhm.
Once he figures that out, what he's really going to use in the arsenal on a consistent basis, he'll be Yu Darvish. But you're right. He's getting by and giving you enough to obviously win baseball games. And early in the year, when you're still on a pitch count, 80, 85 pitches probably, that's more than enough.
Yeah, I was just pulling up Savant, 24 seamers, 14 sweepers, 14 sinkers, 14 curveballs, 8 sliders, 5 splitters, 2 cutters, and 1 knuckle curve. Just for the heck of it,
I didn't know he threw a knuckle curve. I know he threw a lot. I didn't realize he threw a knuckle curve.
It's actually got it's a tick above his curveball at 77.5. Curveball is a little over 74. But I noticed that, I was watching one at bat early on, and it was, I want to say it was slider, sweeper, then like a 94, 95 mile per hour sinker, and,
Yeah.
and you does pitch backwards often like that. He gives you some of the squirrely stuff. And then all of a sudden there's a 95 mile per hour four seamer that probably looks like it's cooking a little bit faster than 95 because of the way it plays off his other stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a tinkerer. He's got a lot in the arsenal, and that makes him dangerous, but also maybe makes it a little bit tricky to kind of get into his groove and figure out what he's going to ride as the season goes on. Because, as I said,
how many pitches is that total? Different pitches?
8
different pitches in one. Yeah. So he's tinkering. He's trying to figure out, okay. And I don't recall him throwing that many curveballs in a 78 pitch outing.
78. Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah. So, and then the bullpen, they did their part for the most part. Johnny Brito came in. Tom Cosgrove, 12 pitches, gets him through an inning, couple strikeouts. Like, Cosgrove looks like, he's just going to be a really important part of this bullpen. And
well, it's the lefties, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yuki Matsui, 5 outs on 20 pitches, didn't get a strikeout, didn't walk a guy. He came out and did his job. It was just here we go, here it is, hit it. Had the one slider that went about 42 feet. Sometimes you're just gonna miss a little bit early in the season. Hasn't been using the splitter as often as I thought he would, which is kind of interesting. He's been relying more on the slider and then the fastball. So I guess maybe it's the new ball, you're not feeling quite as comfortable with it. But when he gets the splitter working too, he's going to be probably even more effective. But he's a guy who can get you 5 outs. And Schulte talked about it afterwards. Like, he's maybe not going to ask him to do that all that often, but he did have 6 out, 2 inning saves in Japan several times before. The last couple of years, he's more of a 1 inning guy, but he'll still go out there and get you 4 or 5 outs if you need him to. He was able to do that on 20 pitches today. That's the kind of versatility this bullpen has. It was really nice to see Yuki come out and ingratiate himself to the Friar faithful, and the first time they get to see him in person.
Yeah, no doubt. And Derek, Robert Suarez was able to go 4 innings today if needed.
I like it. If needed. Hopefully it wasn't going to be needed.
It wasn't needed, but they had it in the back pocket, obviously, with it being, opening day a week after their Dodger games, that, he was fresh and ready for it. But it's good to have that, in the back pocket, just in case. Something they didn't really have last year.
Gave up the one home run to Conforto. But it's, again, if you got a 3-run lead, you can give a solo home run. That don't matter. No, you still got the save.
So far this season, Yuki Matsui's off-speed run value, according to Baseball Savant, is in the 100th percentile.
Well, that's good, right?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I'd take it.
It's a lot of red. I was just looking at the splitter. Yeah, a 0 batting average so far against the splitter. Thrown, well, I think he threw a few more of them today. I don't know. This might have just been, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, he's a really promising, like you said, lefty arm with stuff that guys don't typically see, especially from that side. And so a really good option for them to have in the bullpen. And that's, look, that's one of the questions, like, what's this pen going to look like? Because it looks new, but is it good? And we don't really know. We got to wind down a little bit. are we going to see Graham Pauley? I think that's kind of one of the questions when the lineup came out, and we've seen a bunch of Tyler Wade, and Tyler Wade's done some good things. And so maybe they're just going to let him kind of stay hot, since he looks pretty comfortable, which I understand. I think one of the questions going forward is like, Pauley's here, but how much you want a guy like that just to kind of sit around?
Well, Tyler Wade's only hitting 500. I'm not sure you want to keep a guy like that in the lineup. That would be stupid. Actually, AJ Preller talked about that before the game today. He had his little preseason meet with the media dugout type of deal, and he said he was asked about Graham Pauley because when you got a guy like that, you want him to get consistent at bats. Bringing up a prospect, and we saw this with CJ Abrams a little bit when he first came up. Didn't get consistent at bats. Had to go back down and kind of refine himself a little bit at AAA, and now he looks like he's going to turn into an all-star. Paulie's kind of the same way, where he is not getting the consistent at-bats, but we got to keep in mind, minor league season has not started yet. So he's getting basically the same work here now as he would be training with either El Paso or go back at the sports spring training complex or whatever it might be. So AJ said, different guys handle things differently. So Paulie might be a dude that they see who's able to be effective, even if he's not playing every day, because he's the best option they have off the bench at the big league level right now. Yeah. So when he said, you guys handle things a little bit differently, that kind of made me think maybe this Paulie guy's wired just a little bit, different than most guys, where he's able to handle get 2 starts a week kind of thing and still be effective. I am curious to see whether or not he does get sent down when the AAA season does begin, so we can start getting those more consistent at-bats. That's going to be the interesting part to me.
But you make a great point. I mean, Tyler Wade, that first game was a bit of a roller coaster. There was a lot of good. He had the one error that was costly. But he's hit the ball. He's really competitive, fiery guy. Like, he's fun to watch, has some personality, plays with passion, scrappy dude. And so it's a great start for him. Hopefully it lasts. I mean, that's the thing you just kind of don't know with a guy that doesn't have a ton of track record, is like, okay, how much can we bank on this? But to your point, maybe if a guy's hitting 500, you just continue to leave him in there until he's not hitting 500. And there's your,
I'd be prone to do that. Yeah. It's one of those things like when my old baseball coach, you say, hey, you hit a home run today, you're going to be in the lineup tomorrow. It's kind of my policy.
Don't overthink it. Any final thoughts?
No, you told me not to overthink it. This was really fun to watch. And I was kind of curious to see how they were going to handle things after the long layoff, playing to the count, having to play some exhibition games, and have to flip the switch again to play something that actually matters. And doing that at Petco Park, honoring Peter Seidler before the game with all the PS heart signs all over Petco Park was amazing. That's going to, I think, carry this team a lot in this fan base this year. It was really cool to see everyone, just the outpouring of support for the Seidler family, and everyone realizing and thanking him for putting San Diego baseball back in the international consciousness for where it was not for so many years. Just an overall really, really good, fun day at the ballpark, and hopefully more to come. And by the way, on Friday we get Joe Musgrove and the City Connects. So
I didn't even think about the City Connects.
Things just keep on pointing in the right direction, man. It is awfully fun right now. I think I'll just leave you with what Jurickson Profar told me after the game. Said this is a fun ball club. We got good pitching. We have some power. We have some speed. We play good defense. This is just, it's a really good ball club, and it's a really fun ball club to be a part of.
That's because Jurickson Profar's there. It's always fun when Jurickson Profar's around.
See, that's what I told him. I'm like, you weren't here at the beginning of last year. You don't know what it was like. He's like, no, I heard. And I was like, but I'm here now. Like, this feels, he says it kind of feels like 2022 a little bit, where it's just guys are more loose and more like they're having fun. It's amazing. And over there in Gallagher Square, Darnay, and I'll stop talking after this, the Tony Gwynn area has a quote from Tony. It says, remember 2 things: play hard and have fun.
Yeah. That's it. Again, don't overthink it. Start there. And with this talent, good things are probably going to happen. This was a fun one. Enjoyed chatting about it again, spending the day at the ballpark with you and 44,000, 598 or whatever it is of our
closest friends.
Our closest friends. It was a great time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will catch up with you next Thursday.